Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit of a review, but today I'm going to be reviewing my own tail. So I'm going to be reviewing my own mermaid tail that I made using the individual scale method. And yeah, I made videos on it previously, so if you want to check it out, I will link them down below or in the end cards. So this is the tail that I'm talking about. This is my silicone baby number 2. I'm surprised I can actually fit it in the frame. So today I'm going to be reviewing my silicone tail number 2. As you may know, I made 2 silicone mermaid tails so far. The first one was made with more the proper method, kind of, because the monofin situation was a disaster. Yeah, don't watch that part. This tail was a little bit different. So the plan was to make a fabric tail using Courtney's method, and I'm talking about Courtney, the Vancouver mermaid, and the method that she used to do at the beginning of her journey, which is the hand painted ones. And so I bought the fabric, I made the base for my tail using the fabric, and then I was looking at the paints, and the paints were kind of expensive, especially if I wanted to use few colors and stuff, and I wasn't that into fabric tails at the time anyway. I had the base made already, and the base was made for a different monofin. It was for this yellow cheap monofin that I got. I wanted to make a skin for it because, you know, I like the monofin, but then I changed my mind completely and it turned out to be this monstrosity. I decided to make a silicone tail instead, and I saw a few pins on Pinterest with someone doing individual scales, and I was like, wow, that's a great idea. So I didn't like the seams because they don't look very realistic, and you can see that it's just 2 pieces of silicone stuck together. But with the individual scales, it gives you the seamless look. So on the sides, nothing, no seams, still just scales, you know? So it just goes all around the tail, and it looks quite realistic, I would say. Of course, the colors, I'm gonna get to that too. I wanted to make this tail better than my previous one, but also I decided to make it an experiment because I knew that my previous method kind of worked. There was stuff that I didn't like about it, so I wanted to make a new improved tail, you know? If I'm gonna be working for something for that long and put so much energy and so much money into it, I wanted to make it different and try to make it better. And I'm not the first person to make individual scaled tails, but I couldn't find any materials on how to actually make them and stuff like that. I just saw a few pins on Pinterest of individual scales pinned onto the body form. I made the scale shapes, then I made the molds, and then I started casting my scales. But today I'm not here to blab about how I made this tail because I've made videos in the past, and if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the comments. I'm always happy to answer any questions you have. But today I'm here to review my tail because this monstrosity, it took forever to make, and I just wanted to let you know what I would do differently if I was making my tail again, or if I was making another tail using the same method. Because if you want to follow this method, for example, and you follow the steps that I did, you might make the same mistakes or think the same things that I'm thinking now about my tail. So yeah, I'm just gonna tell you a few things that I would do differently and a few things that I love about my tail. So let's start with the positivity. So what I like about my tail is the fact that it's got individual scales, duh, because seamless look. I love my dorsal fin, even though it's not perfect, but I like it just because I've never had a dorsal fin before. It kind of reminds me of a dinosaur, and that's why I wasn't sure whether I wanted to make it or not because, well, it looks like a dinosaur. But I don't know, it's funny now. I'm like, yeah, well, it's kind of cool. I like the color. I'm gonna get onto that later because it's not how it was gonna turn out. And I absolutely love the 2 little blue details on the back of it. They were absolutely accidental. I didn't mean for that to happen. I just had some random blue scales that I made. I decided to put them in there. Another one detail that looks kind of ugly, but I absolutely love it, is one of the scales, this one here, has a little kind of tiny little star in it. I thought it looked quite cool. It looks kind of ugly as well, but skip that. I love it because it's just this one detail over here, just kind of like a signature almost. And what I really like as well is the transition at the bottom. So it doesn't come out on the camera as well as it looks in real life, in my opinion at least. But I like the transition from blue to green, and I think this would make a really cool tail itself as well. So I like this transition, and here's the other side. And of course I like the fact that I made it kind of underwear style, but without the kind of string to go around the monophone, because I thought it just looked ugly. I've seen fabric tails that were made that way before, and I really didn't like the look. I thought it looked like an underwear. So I just wanted to make just a little V, because you didn't have to attach it to the monophone, you know, you're wearing monophone, so it's staying on your feet. And the scales on this tail are heavy enough for the tail not to like lift up and stuff. Oh, and I've actually seen that Gripmore, the new tail company, did their shape like this as well. So this is how they're doing their tails. So clearly it makes sense. Also, the thing I forgot to say about what I like about this tail is the fact that you can do this, because it's individual scales and they kind of lift up a little bit. And when it lays flat, you can see the white fabric sometimes, or like here, but when you put it on, it disappears, kind of like with the mythic tails from Zinfolk. So yeah, that's all the things that I like about my tail, and of course the fact that I made it, that it's my second baby, and yeah, I'm just really proud of it. But there's a few things I would do differently in the future if I was making this tail again. So the first thing that I would probably do differently, although I'm not that sure, is the tail base. So the base itself, I bought the fabric and I made it myself, and I hand sewn everything, and it's a white base using this 4-way stretch fabric, blah 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 blah. For next time, I could probably just buy a cheap tail on Amazon or something and just cut off the bottom like I did with my tail base that I made for a different monophone. And of course I don't support buying the fake tails and stuff, but if you want to reuse it, like, might as well for your DIY project. Buy a cheap base, similar colors that you want to use for your tail, I would say, or use a skin colored base, because white will get dirty, I think. The second thing I would do differently is make the scales bigger. So when I was making my first tail, I used like a little tape, and I kind of traced the circles from the inside of the tape, and the scales were tiny, and from far away you couldn't see them at all, and I actually thought it made me look a bit bigger than I am, because the scales were so tiny. It's just, I don't know, weird. I decided to make the scales way bigger this time, and I thought I was making them bigger, but no, they didn't turn out that big at all. They're kind of like, I would say 2.5 centimeters wide, and because you're putting them together in a scale pattern, of course you're losing a little bit of that because they go under the next scale. So I would make the scales bigger just to make your body look nicer, and the whole tail kind of, I don't know, it might just be my opinion, but I think it looks a bit strange, you know, because the scales are so tiny. So I've got some bigger scales over here. They're just on this cardboard for my tail, and they're not glued together, that's why I'm kind of holding it. So yeah, I think this looks way better. Bigger scales, I don't know. These are my scales that I had on my tail. Yep. And then I've got my big scales. Yeah. And if I made my scales way bigger, it would be way faster to make the tail. So these are about 5 centimeters, I would say. So the next thing I would do differently is add more accents. So I've shown you these blue little stripes that I made. these ones here. I absolutely love them, and I wish that I added more accent colors and little patterns and stuff like that, because I think it's just so cool. And when I started making my tail, it was really hard to calculate the amount of scales that I needed for my fabric base, because of the fact that you put it in a scale pattern, so you lose some. Even when I thought I made more and I thought I had enough, and I started putting them on the tail and gluing them on and stuff, and then I ran out and I wasn't even halfway done. So then the whole color scheme kind of got messed up, because I was just using random scales that I had left. I like the back more because I started from the bottom, of course, so I had different colors, which is okay if I kept this going for the whole tail, but then I was making a lot of scales at the same time, so it was the same batches using the same paints and the same shades and stuff. So I've got this part over here that kind of looks, you know, like a different tail. So yeah, just make sure you've got enough scales before you start gluing them onto your tail, and if you make them bigger, of course, it's gonna be way easier to lay them out. And believe me, I've done so many color combinations, and I've tried laying them down and pinning them onto my fabric base in many different ways. I've spent hours just doing my little color transitions and stuff like that, but at the end it didn't really work out that well. It did at the bottom, see, with the blue and green, that worked out really nice, but then all the different purples and things were just like blob, a big blob. Oh, another thing I would do differently next time is ditch the rhinestones. So I thought I wanted to make this tail princessy and cartoony, and you know, that's why the colors are so bright and in your face and not like an actual fish. So I was like, I'm gonna add some rhinestones, because I've seen this tail, I think it might have been made by Finfolk, I'm not sure, I can't remember, but it was a white tail with Swarovski crystals like on every single scale, and I was like, wow, this should be my wedding tail, just saying. So yeah, I was like, I'm gonna put some rhinestones on every single scale, you know? Why just do individual scales? Why not put a single rhinestone on every single scale? Why not? Well, here's why not, because they don't stay, and I used silicone to stick them on. Not gonna lie, they stay pretty nicely. They don't come off easily. You have to be really harsh with them for them to come off in the water and stuff, but it's just a big risk, because I started losing a few in my practice swim before I even finished the whole tail. So as soon as I saw that one of them is missing, I was like, nope, that was a bad choice. Although I'm happy that I put glitter inside of the scales. Yeah, I wouldn't change that. Yeah, so the next thing I've got written down is stay consistent with the color. I got really excited and I was doing small batches, but sometimes I wanted to experiment and see, oh, maybe if I added this, it would change the look of the scale and it would look cooler. You know, different kind of glitter, different color of glitter, different color to the mix. And yeah, so I have different batches of scales in my tail, and so it just created different colors. But what I would do next time is stay to the boring thing and do the same exact thing, maybe just altering the amount of paint you use to make darker scales and lighter scales, and then put some accent colors like the little blue stripes that I've got, just to make it look more nice and neat. Oh, another thing that I did that I regret doing is I tried to make a smooth blended waist. Yeah, that was a mistake. So what I did is I put a layer of flesh colored silicone at the top, and I smoothed it out and everything. And this was a big mistake, because this meant that my fabric was no longer stretchy. How I attached the scales on the rest of my tail was just put a little bit of silicone on the top of my scale, so not the whole thing is glued down, so you can still lift them up and the fabric is still a bit stretchy. But because I wanted to do the blended waist, I've lost the stretch in the top of my tail, which is probably the worst thing ever, because that's where my weight fluctuates the most. I didn't like the look at all. It was hard for me to do the Velcro at the back. I had to add a little bit of an extension in the back as well. And I ended up putting scales on it anyway. How I put the scales on the top of the tail as well, I would change that. So right now you can see I've got a line and this random line here. I don't know how that happened, honestly. Yes, so for next time I would try to, first of all, do less of that and maybe create like a V shape or like a half moon type of shape. The back is not that bad. Well, it's not great, but it's not that bad. But it just looks weird. It just looks like this, I don't know, like a second belly. And then when I swim with it makes me look fatter in the belly. Not great. And so yeah, I think that's pretty much all about my tail. Some things that I liked about it, some things that I would do differently for next time. So if you are thinking about using this method to make your own tail, feel free to ask any questions if you have them in the comments down below, and don't do the same mistakes that I did. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you soon. Bye!